All right, we are live. What is going on, my friends? Happy Tuesday. Hope y'all are doing well. We're going to get started here in just a second. Go live on Instagram as well. Beautiful. All right, guys. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are doing well, having a good start to your week. Today, I want to go over really an important topic. I think one that always gets some good attention around how to start your morning and how to adjust it in such a way where it really benefits not just your blood sugar, but your energy, your ability to lose weight, your ability to lower your A1C, like whatever your goals are in terms of blood sugar stability. The morning is a really powerful way. It's the most, I call it the most leveraged way to start improving your blood sugar right away because it impacts so much of the time during the day. Like if I had to pick one place to start, the morning is the best because it impacts the midday, it impacts the mid-morning, it impacts the mid-afternoon, the evening, your sleep even. It touches all of those different pieces, right? And many times we think about our day, and if we're experiencing some sort of symptom, maybe it's a spike in blood sugar, maybe it's feeling more tired or lethargic. Maybe it's feeling more energized, right? Maybe it's waking up in the middle of the night. Maybe it's those those times where we think about, oh, it's that's the time where we're having the challenge, when in reality, that could be a part of it, but many times it's coming from far earlier up, that's creating this domino effect that is leading into whatever time you're experiencing that symptom, right? So that's why we want to talk about it. That's why it's so important. And I, as I was growing up, my mom always said, "Oh, Isaac, the morning or the breakfast is the most important meal of the day." Well, I would kind of tweak that and say, your morning is the most important time of the day, right? And the more that you get that right, the more that you'll experience more blood sugar stability, more energy, more ability to lose weight, more ability to lower your A1C because you worked at a time where it's most beneficial, right? And I'll talk to you about several different reasons why it's the most important time of the day. But there are kind of a few different areas that I look at whenever we're advising clients in helping them to stabilize their blood sugar, tolerate more carbs, feel more energized. And, it doesn't, like, the changes in themselves don't look the same for everybody, but the themes do, right? And in terms of what we're working on. And so the first one or first piece that I would look at is, before we even get into what those actual pieces are, many times we need to look at, okay, in realistic terms, many times people's mornings are very chaotic and stressful and busy, right? And if we were to just like add things into that, it's probably not going to be able to fit, right? Even if it's supportive, even if we recognize that it's something that's being important. So I think first and foremost, it's really important to, if you need to, be able to create time within the morning, because there are always adult things that we need to be done needs to be done, whether that be you're someone that has kids, maybe you're someone that's a spouse, maybe you're doing extracurricular stuff in the morning, maybe you're packing lunches, maybe you're getting ready for the appointments or your work day, right? There's a lot that goes into that morning. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep the previous night, and then you're wanting to sleep in, and then you have less time to get ready, right? So it's really, really important that we actually have some consistent time to get the things that we need to get done in the morning. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And if I had to pick a time to create that space, it actually would be the morning, even if we have something busy going on. Because if we're kind of, in a sense, shot out of a cannon in the morning and trying to do everything that we need to get done, well, it sets us up for having high stress hormones for the rest of the day, right? And what do stress hormones do in excess? Well, they cause carb intolerances, insulin resistance, inability to lower our blood sugar, crashes throughout the day, right? Energy issues. And so, if we can prevent that from happening, well, we have then, therefore, more blood sugar stability, more energy throughout the day, more less of those crashes, less of the spikes. So the morning is such a great time for that. Yet for many people, it's the busiest. And so, how can we create more time? How can we carve that out? Because for many people, when it does start that way, when it does start off with our demands, our responsibilities dictating our routines, that's when we really start to get more into the blood sugar issues. And that's when many people do start to struggle a little bit more. So, how can we be intentional within a realistic way? Right. So, that's first and foremost. After that, after we've developed an ability to create some time, I would then look at something we call circadian rhythm support. What does that mean exactly? Well, your circadian rhythm is referring to the hormones that your body releases in response to lightness and darkness. And in the morning time, especially if you're waking up, fairly recently, or maybe you're waking up after sunrise, there's going to be a lot of light out, right? And that light is so beneficial for our body because it starts all the processes, all the daytime processes, all the daytime hormones that we need to function and thrive throughout the day. If we're not getting that signal, then that can be problematic. And I'll talk about that in a second. But when we are getting that signal, that light is going into our eyes and it's starting the systems within our body, right? It's beginning to promote a healthy appetite, right? We feel hungry in the morning, which is really good because when we can fit in more food in the morning time, it creates more energy, more stability, more blood sugar balance for, again, the rest of the day. Two, it starts a digestion. It gets us ready to be able to eat, to be able to produce the very enzymes and the my phone always goes on low battery mode when I get to this point in the day. There we go. When we're getting that sunshine in the middle of the day, it's promoting more of digestive processes. It's promoting more digestive juices and enzymes to start breaking down our food, right? What's a popular thing that we see? Digestive enzymes, people having to take digestive enzymes. Well, is it an enzyme issue or is it a lack of sunshine issue, right? For many people, it is because it starts the very processes that we need to be able to digest and absorb our food and absorb those nutrients. So that's huge. It also promotes the release of insulin, the ability to stabilize our blood sugar because when we're in the middle of the night, right? Our body is not expecting a lot of food. We're not ready for it. But when we're promoting those daytime hormones, well, now our body is ready for it. It's better able to tolerate and process carbs more effectively to keep our blood sugar stable. But when we don't have that, it becomes very, very difficult to prevent those spikes. And that's what many people see when they struggle sometimes with that higher blood sugar in the morning or after breakfast, their blood sugar really skyrockets. And this is the part that they're probably missing to be able to create what we call that blood sugar resiliency so that when they do eat a meal or that when they eat a meal, especially with carbohydrates, their blood sugar doesn't go skyrocketing up, right? Or in some people's case, crashing down. So this is really huge for that. Third, we want to make sure, that we have a meal that's stabilizing for us, right? And meet us where we're at right now. I'm all for carbs. I'm all for people being able to have that flexibility and eat what they really want. But at the same time, sometimes we have to meet our body where it's at, especially with where we are right now. And if we're really spiking or if we're really crashing based on us having carbohydrates and healthy kinds of carbs, sometimes it becomes meeting our body in the middle with what we can tolerate in this given moment of time. And so for you, if you're really struggling with more of the higher blood sugars, it might be helpful to prioritize a little bit more fat, a little bit more fiber, a little bit more protein at the very beginning while you're working on the lifestyle pieces to be able to tolerate those carbs again, right? That's the distinction. Many people just say, hey, I'm going to cut out carbs because I know it helps to stabilize my blood sugar, and they don't work on the lifestyle pieces that help them to tolerate those carbs better. That's where you get the reversal that so many people are after, right? So that is huge. And what we see for a variety of different clients in the morning times is they're not really eating quite supportively, right? They might be eating healthy. They might be doing like a yogurt or a cottage cheese or some fruit or a granola bar or a little bit of oatmeal or toast. And, they might be doing these things that help them to fit in a breakfast meal, but it's certainly not the thing that they probably need. what we also often look for is something that's what we call dense. A dense meal is something that's satiating, satisfying, bulky, fibrous. It really helps them to stay not just satisfied in terms of appetite, but stable in terms of energy, stable in terms of blood sugar, right? Stable in terms of mood all throughout that morning. Like this should really last you for about 4+ hours. And if it doesn't, if one of those metrics are off and you feel more anxious by the second hour, or you feel more hangry, or you feel hungry even after an hour or two, that's a sign that that breakfast probably isn't supporting you, right? And for many people, they feel like they have to eat that, maybe that lighter breakfast because maybe they just don't have the appetite. And in that case, maybe they need to work on the sunshine first, right? And then for many other people, maybe they're just so used to it, so used to eating a lighter breakfast that they've never trained their body to eat more densely in the morning, right? So that can certainly be the case. For others, they might be scared of a blood sugar spike by eating more food or gaining more weight by eating more food, right? And almost that becomes like a little bit more of a mental shift that they need to make because whenever our clients consume a breakfast that is really dense and really satiating, it becomes the very thing that helps them to do all those things: lose weight, lower their blood sugar, lower their A1C, get off meds, etc. Right? So dense breakfast, and I would look at, hey, what is a protein source that's dense? Think about eggs and meats and seafood. Think about a fiber source, some sort of vegetable, right? And then think about, like, if you can tolerate it, some sort of carb. And so what that looks like for myself is I typically have some form of egg, right? Typically it's like a scramble or some sort of omelet. I mix in vegetables into there, whether that be greens or tomatoes or cruciferous vegetables. Sometimes I'll use like roasted vegetables that I'll have from the night before from dinner and just throw those in there, right? I typically need something like that to be very dense. And then like a potato, for example, like a small baked potato, and that really satiates me for hours, right? Versus we could have a very similar macronutrient profile where we have a similar amount of carbs, similar amount of protein, similar amount of fat, and something like yogurt and fruit. But when we compare the meal that I just described with the vegetables, the roasted vegetables, the eggs, the meat, and the baked potato to something like yogurt and fruit, it's not even comparable, right? Yogurt, your body doesn't really have to work on versus the meat and the eggs. It takes some time to digest and absorb that, and therefore is more dense, right? So it's really key that we're able to do this. And if we don't have quite the appetite, there are pieces that we need to adjust and look at to be able to get that appetite so we can have a meal like that. Because at the end of the day, something of that nature for each person, of course, the combinations might change, but something of a dense nature can be really effective, really, really important to look at for your breakfast meal. Last but not least, I look at how can you take some time out for yourself in the morning? Because what we know in the context of somebody that has high blood sugar, what's underneath that is a person that is struggling with a high stress response, right? Doesn't necessarily mean they have a stressful life. It could mean that, but it means that their body really doesn't do great whenever stress is presented to it themselves. Maybe that's demands, responsibilities, but their body's reaction during those times is to release a lot of stress hormones, right? Well, the more that we can meet our body's needs, nutrition and otherwise, it helps us to lower that stress response so we're no longer pushing out so many stress hormones in response to our environment, and therefore make it so easier to regulate that blood sugar after we eat, right? So what I like to look at is how can we kill multiple different birds with one stone, right? Not physically throwing a stone at somebody, but you get the idea, right? We're looking at one habit that has the ability to impact several different areas of our body, right? For me, for me, that is walking outside with my dog, listening to music, listening to a podcast, listening to an audiobook, right? Something that involves me learning something or just having some time to myself. That is something that really helps me. For someone else, it might be reading your Bible, some sort of prayer, some sort of getting outside and sitting on the porch and drinking your coffee, whatever it is. It is a time that you dedicate just for yourself, just for the sake of doing it, that provides some joy, some calmness, some relaxation before the day gets started. And that becomes really, really important because the more that you can settle into the day versus racing through it, again, the more stable that your blood sugar is going to be for the rest, not just the morning, for the rest of the day. And research certainly proves that to be the case as well. So I would look at that, and the bonus would be if you can incorporate some sort of walk. So for me, when I'm walking, I'm doing it outside. I'm getting a circadian rhythm benefit because there's sunshine or there's light outside, right? And I'm getting activity that helps to look to lower that blood sugar, especially when I eat carbs after breakfast. So I get a win-win-win. For you, it might be some sort of activity as well. But again, like if you, especially if you have less time in the morning, looking at things like that that can hit multiple different birds with one stone, I think can be really effective. And that's what I do as well. So I hope that helps for you to kind of look at those themes. Again, we want to create time, for the routine that we want to build. We want, some time for sunshine before we start flipping on lights or looking at phones. We want time for our breakfast, and then we want some me time, especially if it can involve maybe some movement as well. All right. Hope that's helpful. Hope that provides a perspective for you. For you, I would look at, okay, what is the thing that I need to look at? I wouldn't look at, hey, how can I build this routine overnight? But what is the one piece that I feel maybe I'm not incorporating to a big extent? And that's the one I would focus in on. All right. Cool, guys. I think I have maybe 1 to 2 minutes to take questions before I can move on to my next call. And I'll give you some time to do that. If there's no questions, we'll just wrap it up. Mm, mm, mm. Don't see anything on YouTube yet. Great reminders. Thank you. Yes, you're very welcome. Very welcome. All right. Cool. Well, we'll wrap it up from here. If you guys would like more support with stabilizing your blood sugar, want more help with designing routines that are sustainable in the end, can allow you to still eat carbs while balancing your blood sugar, regaining energy, losing weight, whatever your goals are related to blood sugar balance, please reach out. We'd love to help. All right. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will talk with you on the next live.